So my name is Katrina Abhold. I work for a company called the Global Maritime Forum, which is a not-for-profit based in Copenhagen, Denmark. We work with the maritime value chain, pretty much everyone across the supply chain, including finance and governments, working on how to make the sector more sustainable and a better sector for the well-being of seafarers and for the environment in the future.
Okay.
I work with them as a senior project manager of decarbonization. So I work on decarbonization projects, and one of our main initiatives is called the Getting to Zero Coalition. It was founded in 2019 with the World Economic Forum and Friends of Ocean Action. The Global Maritime Forum now is the main operator of the Getting to Zero Coalition, and within this initiative, I work on a Latin America task force. So
awesome.
Very relevant for being here in Panama.
Excellent. And what is the major challenge that you have faced in implementing those decarbonization techniques here in Latin America?
I think it's actually, there's a few things to note. There's differences in discussions at the international level, which aren't reflected at the national level. So in the International Maritime Organization, the UN body that regulates shipping, you have Latin America bloc, which is very concerned with trade costs, very concerned with implementing measures that are what we would consider climate ambitious, for good reason. But at the national level, they have different ambitions and maybe not are reflecting so much what is being done internationally. So there seems to be sometimes this disconnect. And rather when we're seeing at the national level is there is a lot of appetite and there is a lot of interest in shipping decarbonization. We're seeing it from different ministries. There's hydrogen roadmaps that are being developed. Shipping is being discussed as an opportunity for exporting green energy as having a new commodity. But then how do you actually implement that? How do you get companies here? How do you finance things? And this is where we're kind of coming into most of the stumbling blocks, is how do you get the pieces together? How do you get governments acting in tandem, getting the financial resources where they need to be, and getting the signals from the private sector actually reflected in those conversations?
Awesome. You said something very interesting now that you responded my first question pertaining the connection between the international and national levels. As a group, what techniques or what are you doing? What strategies are you implementing to try to get them to connect?
So I think that mostly what we're seeing is we started more at the international level working with Latin America, and because we are following closely developments at the IMO. But then we saw that there's a different narrative being said. Latin America has so much energy potential, and then internationally it's not being reflected. So my company started a Latin America task force specifically looking into what are the challenges and opportunities of the region. How can we make it so that they have the higher ambition at the IMO, that they are part of the discussions that would actually, in our opinion, might benefit from them. We're talking about having new international measures, a technical standard, as well as an economic measure. And that economic measure might generate revenue that can go back to countries like Panama, for example. Circular, coming back here to be able to support shipping decarbonization and get the energy projects that we need for shipping's new fuel to actually get off the ground. But you can't have that if they're not coming into those discussions with that ambition and with that goal in mind. So we're trying to make sure that we are, one, understanding their true concerns, where is this coming from? And two, how does that align with where we need it to be for high ambition to get the shipping sector where it needs to be by 2050?
What are your expectations from TOC Americas 2023?
I think one of the things that I mainly want to have is a broader discussion about shipping decarbonization with other sectors. It's not just shipping that needs to be driving this agenda. Shipping decarbonization is also industry and sector decarbonization. It needs to be connected to other areas, other sectors, other players, so that the discussion of having the fuels that are needed is actually part of a wider decarbonization, wider climate ambition strategy. And that needs to then be linked back to public bodies. And unless you have industry knowing how they fit in to the broader landscape, they won't be able to communicate that well. And so we're trying to really make sure that the discussions that we have here resonate with industry so they feel more confident in being able to voice that in the future and potentially reach out for collaboration opportunities. We're happy to support this. And if this is something that they want to have happen, my organization, among others, are willing to step in and make sure that we can have those cross-collaborative dialogues in place to make sure that voices are heard.
Okay, so the key word is here, up here is collaboration.
Yes.
And with that, we end up this interview. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope to see you again in TOC Americas.
Gracias.
You're welcome. De nada.